Okay, so part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, go and check out the Moulin Rouge channel with me.
We are back.
We're still talking. We've just been talking. I've cut the video off from part 1 because, you know, it couldn't be a million years long. But we're going to make this one as long as we need it.
Yeah, I'm down.
We'll just overlay this over the top of the video and it'll all be great.
Yeah, perfect.
So check out part 1 if you haven't seen that. If you're here for part 2, hello, welcome, thank you, bonjour, thanks for coming back.
Yeah. Comment ça va? Ça va bien.
I love my fake French. Alright, so we saw the Moulin Rouge. It was consecutive nights. We sat in different places. We've talked about...
if people are just visiting, what are we talking about? We're talking about Moulin Rouge, the musical.
The musical that is bound for Broadway.
Yeah, we went to go to Boston to see the out-of-town Broadway production, pre-Broadway production, the out-of-town tryout.
In the first video, we had a bit of a chat as to what that process is like and how the show is ever evolving at this point. They try it outside of New York so that when they take it to New York, they're ready to put in the final version of it and it's all, you know, polished and ready to go.
Yeah.
So if you're curious about any of that, like I said, Smash, the TV series, will detail at length what it's like to create a new musical. It is a fascinating process. I didn't like Smash at first because I wasn't here for some of those actors, but I really did get into it. Remember, I was binge watching it.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
I was like determined to see season 2 in a day. But anyway, so we went to see this musical.
Yes,
it's fantastic. You walk into the theater. Steve, we've already discussed your expectations were so astronomically high.
Yeah.
The first thing that happens is it's atmospheric, right?
Yeah.
So there are
They're performers.
Well, they're like first of all, the Moulin Rouge, let me just clarify this. We said if you're in Boston, go and see it. If you're in Boston, go and see it just with a group of adults. This is not for children, I don't think, just yet. No. It's because think of the subject matter of Moulin Rouge, the movie. She is a courtesan. Yeah. The Moulin Rouge is a place of entertainment.
Yes, of adult entertainment.
Adult entertainment. There's nothing actually that graphic in the musical.
Nothing at all.
But I would just say, like, some of the costumes are reminiscent of that movie.
Yeah, I mean, you have.
If you would show a kid the movie, take the kid to Moulin Rouge.
Yeah,
but
perfect.
Please don't let me tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're watching that. The costumes. Now, I wanted to be a fashion designer. This was blowing me out of the water. Because, I'm just going to say 2 words here. Couture stockings.
Couture stockings. Fogal.
How on earth... I mean, there's a budget from Myla. We discussed that, right?
Yes.
You know, the glitter extravaganza that was my life 3 days afterwards. Yeah. The stockings were the first thing I noticed other than the theatre. Because how on earth could you afford to put that in an out-of-town tryout?
How on earth are you going to put that on the ensemble? No offense to the ensemble, because we all know we've been a part of an ensemble, and, you need a strong ensemble.
No, but unless your role is to sit down and not move your legs, I'm not risking getting a hole in those.
That's the thing, right? Because, it's high risk.
That's coming out of their budget, I know it.
High risk, low reward.
If you ruin those stockings, you're not going to take your paycheck home.
Was it high risk, high reward? High risk... Yeah, I guess it would be high risk, high reward.
It was so crazy to see that they had used like lots of crushed velvets and the boning in the corsets. Everyone's corsets were different. The wigs, oh my goodness, the wigs.
The wig, like the hair design, the costume designer is this woman named Catherine Zuber, and she is, I believe, like a 6 or 7 time Tony Award winner. She is like
for good reason
top of her game. Like her work is beautiful. I have always loved her work. All the other musicals that I've seen that she has done. More recently...
Didn't she do your Light in the Piazza?
She did Light in the Piazza, my favorite musical. Well, I don't know about now.
Yeah, I mean, this is
one of my most favorite stories.
This has gone right up there for me.
But yeah, but it's... I think what I like about her... And she also more recently did the revival of King and I, starring Kelly O'Hara. And, she did that big, lavender, beautiful ball gown, to the Shall We Dance moment. So, what I love about her is that she takes... these styles, so like, for instance, Light in the Piazza, she took the 1950s silhouettes, and she just puts that extra oomph into it, which refines it even more, makes it even more beautiful, more palatable, more powerful. And I think that's what she did with Moulin Rouge, because the costumes. I mean, Catherine Martin. Yeah, from the film. Iconic. Baz Luhrmann's wife.
The pink feather boa number, Satine's jaunty angle hat coming down for diamonds.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I love that Catherine Zuber took all of that inspiration and just put her little, her fairy dust over it. Yeah. And made it her own. Because it is very reminiscent of Moulin Rouge, you know it, you expect it, but I like that she just kind of took it up a little bit of a notch, if that can even be done.
And what's interesting is, like, I come from a dancer perspective, and I know what it's like to dance in costumes, and I have, you know, it's one of those things that, like, the more detailed and elaborate the costumes get, the harder it is for you to do your job, because some of these pants don't stretch, they break all the time, the costumes are quite heavy, so your movement becomes restricted. Like, sometimes, you know, when you see a simple costume, it's because, like, that facilitates the, you know, the effort that the dancer is going to have to put in.
Right.
And the fact that they were like, no, you're going to make this work. And they do. Not one point did I ever see a costume get in anyone's way, and there was some really fantastic choreographed costume changes on stage. That Satine number where she just, like, slips into it. That was stunning to me.
Just a hidden zipper up and down.
And no one gets a break in this show.
No one.
No one's allowed to. No one's allowed to focus on one discipline. You are singing, dancing, and acting the entire time.
Yeah, the entire time.
And they have, so costume for me, one of the first things I noticed was those couture stockings. Honestly, couldn't believe what I was seeing. You know, just, it was magnificent. But the can, all the colours. So you need to tell everyone, because you're so into this, how it translated, the camera angles of seeing the Moulin Rouge in the movie, and how that happened on stage. Because the first 17 minutes of that show, everyone's jaws were on the ground.
No joke, though. But and you know, we all know I'm a dramatic individual. Sometimes I'm dramatic for no reason, because that's just how I am.
Shooting star, the more you know.
Yeah, right. But so you walk into the theater, and the set design is so powerful, it just hits you. And then you have, like, you know, like you said, it's atmospheric in the sense where you have certain performers who are out there just creating environment, and they look incredible in their costumes and their wigs, and it's just phenomenal. And then Aaron Tveit, who walks out and he plays Christian, walks out and does a little, like, nod and like lifts his hands essentially to make the sign lift up.
I literally just got chills remembering that. Like,
right, it just did that, and then it goes into the Lady Marmalade, dun, 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 and, like, so lights go out, backlit, and you just see the silhouettes of the 4 Lady M dancers, and they just, like, hit you, like, boom, explosion of lights, you know, and they start with their song, and they walk around the passerelle, and you are completely overwhelmed. You don't even know what hits you. And so then that just extends into introducing the characters little by little, more and more and more and more, and here you go. And before you know it, you know, Harold Ziedler comes, you know, he stops the song, he goes, "'Cause you can," and everybody goes, "'Cause you can," and they start that whole bit, and that's where it goes nuts. Because in the film, if you go back to see the film, it's all these crazy camera angles, camera movement that are like shooting back and forth, going from person to person. That's the part, I think, in the film where a lot of people are like, oh, I can't get, like, you know, motion sickness, I want to vomit, which I don't feel that. But I think that what's interesting about how they do it is because they use just an effect of, first of all, like, strobe effect, lighting, the set, and the choreography. Which literally, instantly, is just, there is movement happening everywhere. You don't even know where to look. If you look up, you see flashing lights. If you look down, you see, like, legs kicking. If you look to the side, you see a whole other choreographic moment happening. Different types of lights. There's lights that are happening up on the sides that you don't even really realize or notice. But just those, like, simple conventions makes you... It feels like it's so much more exciting, thrilling, zany.
I think it floods your senses.
Like,
because...
Before you know it.
It all happens so quickly, and it's also intentional. I think one of the other things that you just said too, like the convention, one of the things that was my favorite about this musical, and that I really hold on to now as we move forward into very technologically advanced musicals, this was pure theater. In the sense that, yes, there was technology helping out, you know, obvious things that we rely on it for now, but
lights.
Lights. The set was set pieces. They gave you all you needed to know about the story, and they were so effective in how they worked, and then the costume gave you everything you needed. The tricks weren't digital. The tricks were as manual as they ever have been in theater, like the costume change tricks.
Classic theater.
Yeah.
It's traditional classic theater.
And I love that now, because a lot of the times I go to see musicals nowadays, there's a lot of technological
a lot of times
enhancements.
A lot of times there's you know, an LED screen in the back that
always.
That provides the movement for, going from one scene to the next, or they just put it like a wallpaper up that transports you. And I think there's times for that too, and I think it does look really interesting.
There's times where that's so cool.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't need that. Sometimes you don't need to literally... And that's what I was kind of thinking. If this is based on the movie, am I going to see an LED screen up the back that's going to play me sections of the movie? Like, am I going to see the literal stage, or am I going to see something else? And I think what they presented was that this is all you need aspect. This is enough for you to get it, and we've really, they haven't even pared it down. They gave it as much as Baz would give it.
Yeah,
but it was a stage version.
Right, and it's very elaborate. It's very beautiful. Even like there's the black and white section. There's a moment towards the beginning when they introduce the character, or they introduce Christian, and he's there with Toulouse and the Argentinian.
That Parisian set.
Yeah, it's all black and white grays.
And they took elements of the film and actually translated it super well. Like the scene of them in the elephant and the whole, like, the little ruse they're trying to, make the Duke believe that they were in there for whatever. Yeah. That was done really well in a way that was new for the musical, but also exactly the same as the movie. Yeah. The scene, which I was dying for, the dancing on the clouds.
Yeah, the Your Song bit moment. Elephant Love Medley.
Yeah, they gave it the movie. They flooded the stage with smoke effects.
So they had dry ice, and they brought in like an Eiffel Tower.
The Eiffel Tower was spinning around on the stage. That red umbrella popped out, and I felt Steve just grab my leg and go.
It's my favorite part.
They were standing on a little Eiffel Tower on stage, and I'm so there for that.
It is like, and some people be like, oh my gosh, what a gimmick. I didn't care, because this is like, it's music theater, number one.
Okay, but the movie also, like, remember when they throw the gun and it hits the Eiffel Tower?
Right, yeah.
That's the same as the movie.
Right, exactly. It's that gimmick. But you totally believe it, because, like I said, for me, I always feel like that's what love should feel like, is dancing on clouds, the Eiffel Tower with the red umbrella. That's how and for whatever reason, that is my favorite moment in the film, is the red umbrella. And so to see them bring it back, or to bring it on stage, that's everything that I needed to see, and I was so happy.
Yeah. So, I think... so we've moved from costume to transitioning the movie into the stage. I think they did a really great job of honoring that and actually really adapting Baz's work really well, because that's a lot to tackle. You, having done photo shoots, inspired by Baz before, I mean, how do you attempt to recreate what Baz and Catherine have spent a lifetime cultivating?
You can't.
Right.
You just can't.
You can't recreate it.
You can't recreate it, and I think that's what makes them so spectacular and such visionaries. But what you can do is you draw inspiration from it.
Right. And you homage it. You honor it. You deliver it in a way that is at the same level of detail and extravagance, but, you just... Some of the flares that are in there, you're like, wow, I mean, that's that.
Right.
The elephant that they had in there was just... so great. The thing that I love the most about that theatre too, they put the windmill and the elephant on the side. Yeah. But it's not in the show.
It's not in the show, and you don't need, it's just there for environment. It's there just to remind you of what this is, where you are.
But those are massive set pieces to just have in there.
I don't care. I love every bit of it.
But that's what I love. Yeah. I was like, I'm so glad you gave me all of that extra. Yeah. I'm here for extra.
Because that's what the film is. That's what the story is. It is extra.
Yeah.
I always tell people, it is probably literally the most exhilarating first 17 minutes of a musical that I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. I've seen a lot of shows, and my opinion is my opinion, and I'm sure other people have been moved by stuff. I mean, Ragtime has a very powerful, 12-minute intro that, really sets up the story. But this does as well, and in a different way, and in a way that literally, we have a phrase, it snatched my wig. Not only did it snatch my wig, but, I caught myself on both nights, because we went 2 nights, on both nights with my jaw completely open, looking like an idiot. I'm sure the performers on stage were like, who is that moron with his mouth wide open?
But you weren't the only one, though.
Because I was just sitting, just completely jaw, mouth open, and I had to grab my hand and shut my mouth just to remind myself, you gotta keep your mouth shut. It's unbelievable.
Keep it together.
Keep it together. But that's just was my natural, instinct reaction, I guess, my physical reaction to what I was seeing. I still can't comprehend what it all was, because it was so fast, so much, all at the same time, and it was incredible.
And there was, so for those of you who don't know, I used to be a professional dancer, and I was in a car accident, and I haven't danced since. I've recovered, but, my life has taken a bit of a different path. For me, I was also kind of nervous to go because, you know, for a lot of personal reasons, going to see this show specifically was going to be... I knew it was going to take a bit of a toll on my emotions. And I was sat there, and they did this number, and, like, I love Roxanne, right? Well, my whole entire life, I've wanted to do a tango to Roxanne. Yeah. That is not this... I mean, it's a powerful song. Yeah. Aaron Tveit, like, kills that number.
I mean, he sings his face off through snot, tears, everything.
Yeah, it's incredible. And the choreography was just stunning, and the power, and it started off so... Like, it started off as the... yeah, whatever. So we're going through that. I start crying.
Because it's so brilliant.
Because I have never, in my life, wanted to get up and jump on a stage more than I did at that point. And I wasn't feeling sorry for myself at all. Like, please don't think this is a pity party or a, you know, sympathy soiree. I just wanted to get up there. I saw how into it they were. I know what that feels like to be performing like that. Yeah. And I've never done that number before. I've never even seen this number before. So for the first time, I'm seeing something that I think is truly magnificent that I need to get up and do. Yeah. But I'm like stuck in my chair and I didn't know what to do, so I just started crying, and it was very moving, and I will never ever disregard how important some stuff like this is. I mean, I know some people just don't value it at all, but you have to appreciate what moves people. And a lot of the times, the creative arts, in no matter what discipline they are, have some of the deepest and most profound impacts on your feelings and your emotions.
Well, and you know, and I'm gonna take this a little like theological, if you don't mind.
I mind.
You know, because you know, I think creation and creativity is such it's such almost like it's an innate part of humanity. And you know, me as a man who, you know, as a part of the Christian faith, you know, I believe in God, and I believe in a God who created the world. And I think it is one of those things that we forget, or not that we forget, but the idea that God is creative. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, he instills all of this.
You know, we say the creator.
Right. Like so because God is creative, I feel like that's why so many people have a spiritual connection to creation, to creating for themselves, creating art, and that's why art is inspirational, because it's transcendent beyond who we are, like, physically, because it's an expression, I think, of our of our spiritual selves, of our emotional selves.
For sure. I like to think of that expression, if I can go theological for a second, when I talk about journaling as like imagination encyclopedias, when I express myself through, you know, illustrating or painting or drawing or dancing even, you're getting a communication from me that I don't necessarily verbalize. Right. That's coming from a part of me that I don't really have words for sometimes, or that's drawing from an experience that I might not want to vocalize to you. Yeah. So, you know, speaking is one form of communication. Yeah. And we know that because there are other forms of communication, because some people are mute, some people are deaf, you can't speak. Your form of communication is sign language. Right. And we have all of these conventions to be able to express what we actually want to express, but sometimes one form of communication just can't get it there. Right. And so that's why I believe when people are expressing themselves creatively, it's so important, because there are parts of them that you may have never seen before. There's parts of that person that you don't get to the privilege of seeing ever until they show you that like that. Right. So when someone is singing and you see them have this breakthrough, you're like, wow, I have not known you like this. Right. Right. I know you deeper now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a crazy realization, and I think going back to music theater now, it's why music theater, I always say, is kind of one of the most truest forms of theater, because it involves sound and it has emotions and such. But you know, music theater is created because, you know, when you can't say it, you sing it, and it takes you to a different emotional level. And then they say when you can't sing it, you dance it, and it's so true. And when you have a convention that combines all three of those, it can be an incredibly moving experience. And that's why I think people go to the theater, they end up crying at the theater, they leave inspired, they leave humming the songs, because it moved them in a way that they didn't expect to be moved. Yeah. And they go back to have that feeling.
And it's different from a film as well, because, you know, a film you and I might watch together in this apartment and have an experience together, you know, that's our energy together next to each other. When you're in a theater, all of these people are under one roof. Yeah. And you can feel the energy of the person next to you and the hundreds of other people that are watching.
Right.
You get to hear them at intermission.
Yeah.
You get to watch their faces when you see like they've been moved by something, and we're all crying at different points for different things.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think it is so important, and all forms of creativity are important for the same reason, because you're truly having an experience connecting with something that you don't get to experience any other way.
Right.
You know, a lot of the times you look at some of the drawings I do and you're like, where did that come from? Or like, why did you think to do that? And I said, I don't know. That's just what I felt like drawing. And you can tell, you can try and analyze someone's work, and I can even try and put a voice to it, but it will resonate differently with you depending on where you're at.
Right.
So I could tell you, oh no, this is a happy piece. If that looks sad to you, that's because I'm expressing something that connects with your sadness.
Right.
And I just think it's incredible. And like you said, in theatre, musical theatre, to have 3 conventions, well, you know, you've got acting, singing, dancing, I guess, you know, speaking is whatever.
Speaking, singing, dancing.
Speaking, singing. But the, what's acting? Having all of those 3 together is like this big synergistic mix of expression, but then you've got it from so many different people on stage, and then you've got it from all the people behind the scenes that made it happen.
Yeah.
So when I'm looking at the costuming, I know something about this costumer because I see the level of detail they've gone to.
Right.
I see the effort and I know that costumer is committed.
Oh, and the set designer.
Yeah.
And lighting designer. And
I may
sound
never
designer,
have met them.
Music producer, the whole thing.
Yeah. I may
Music
never
director.
have met this person, but they've communicated something to me by way of their work.
Yeah.
Wow, we just got so deep.
No, but it is so true, and I think that's what is...
Writes a thesis.
Yeah. But no, I think that's what's also what is so true, and I think that's what's fantastic just about live theater for me in general, is because I think you hit it. Then you hit the nail on the head with the whole synergistic idea, because it is energy that is transferred from the performer to the audience, and from the audience back to the performer. Without for the performer, without the audience, it falls flat. I mean, how many rehearsals have you been in and be like, it'll feel better when you have an audience here.
For sure.
We need the audience, because it is literally...
You feed off of it.
Right, you feed off of it, but you need them there because they are so much a part of this experience.
Yeah.
And as an audience member, you need the performer because you are wanting to encourage, you're wanting to build, and you want to feed into whatever their talent and their ability is, because you want to receive something from them.
Oh yeah, you
And
know
it's
the
back
more
and
you
forth.
give, you're going to get back.
Right, and that's why I think it is so brilliant, it is so powerful, and I think it's deep down why I love theater, because it's people inspiring each other.
And specifically this show, I think all of the elements have been worked on so carefully.
Oh, God is in the details for sure.
And
Yes.
I could not pick apart one element and say that there was a problem with it. That's why I think this show, with the continued revisions, we went twice. The second night we saw revisions from the first performance that we saw, and it's probably changed a few more times since then.
Yeah.
And it will continue to change and evolve, to suit different audiences and to suit where that production needs to go. So I think it was great for us to see this preview, because we obviously have every intention to see it when it goes to Broadway and see that again. I'm so curious to know what will change and what will be different, because it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And I think that also speaks to how we are as creatives, in the sense that you're allowed to revise yourself. You're allowed to take yourself out of it and say, you know what, this was great work. This is just not this is not going to take me where I'm going right now.
Yeah.
And this is maybe not for my audience, or this is, something different. And I think, sorry, go.
No, I was just saying, sometimes you need time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Sometimes, like, for instance, with my Moulin Rouge photo shoot, I did it 2 years ago, but I needed those 2 years to figure out my life and different artistic style. It was ready now. It wasn't ready then.
Yeah.
Like Moulin Rouge, this musical has literally been in the works for 17 years. Since the film came out, people start talking about creating a stage show of it.
Well, because it looked like a stage show on film. So
Right.
I remember saying, when people used to ask, like, oh, if you could make any musical in the world, what would you make? And I said, Moulin Rouge. I said I wanted it to be based off of the movie. I don't want a real Moulin Rouge musical. Right. I want that. And I remember saying this for so many years. I never knew that it was ever in talks or in the works. And I used to draw little set designs for what I would do. I even have a photo. I drew and created a little hydraulic lift, and I was like, if the lift came out of the stage, this would be the pattern I would have on it. And so for me to see this show, and we watched the dancers as they were coming up on the hydro,
on the lift.
It had a little design wrapped around the perimeter of it, and I was like, this is literally
what you thought of.
My dream come true.
Yeah. It's incredible.
And let's just talk about favorite moments, because we've been theological. Let's just be real now.
Oh man, I don't even know. I think
Satine coming down from the swing was ultimate fantasy.
yeah, because you expect that.
She had the jaunty angle hat.
Yeah, perfect. I loved it.
Crystalled galore.
Yeah, it was so sparkly, literally sparkling diamond.
There's a budget for stockings, wigs, crystals, and mylar in this.
I don't like. As a purist and somebody who loves Moulin Rouge, I went in. I had to go in with an open mind, and I was really happy that I did because, if you didn't watch part one of this whole thing that we're doing now, or part two, just kind of a quick recap is that the original film Moulin Rouge used the convention of music, obviously, and dancing, obviously, but the music that they used was primarily pop music, pop rock music that of the time. The only original song was "Come What May," and then for this, because it's been 17 years since that came out, that iteration came out to this one. They have 17 years worth of pop music that they have accessed and that they've used and they've put into the show. And so, certain things like Elephant Love Medley is different in the musical than it is in the movie. And it was fine and it was great and I loved the additions. I loved the changes because to me, it totally worked. With that said, the Act 2 opener was so incredibly good. I think if your wig was snatched off the first 20 minutes, then you spend the rest of Act 1 like finding it and reattaching it and gluing the edges.
And then Act 2 comes and it's wig location unknown.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. You can't so they open it up with Lady Gaga's Bad Romance, and it is like.
But it's the Argentinian.
Right, it's the Argentinian who sings it.
He sings it as a ballad, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. But without giving too many details away, I mean, I'm sure there are people out here who are like, I don't really, like Gaga. That's fine. The song and the way they do it, it's so good. It is so good. It's almost transcendent where you're just like, it's like, it just blows you away. Yeah. It was so
the choreography
good.
Just got me.
I think that was probably one of my most favorite parts of the film. And then of course when Roxanne happens, like you're never getting your wig back. No.
You have to go to Amazon getting your wig. So many incredible moments. The set was, like I said, just incredible to me. How you just used traditional theater techniques to make you suspend disbelief. There were so many vignettes that the show set up, so many moments where you could take a snapshot and sell the entire show off of that. Like because I've only ever seen the stage, the picture of the stage. Like before I went to see it, I didn't know any of the other costumes. I didn't know any of the other set designs. I didn't know any of the other choreography or numbers. It's very secretive.
Yeah, and it continues to be because they're in previews. And again, if you didn't watch the first video, what they're doing right now is it's an out-of-town tryout before it goes to New York. Because the producers want to make sure that the show is a good flow, and, everything's worked out, and so they invest in this because they feel like it's a better investment for them to do a full production than to open it on Broadway.
After workshops.
And so what they did with this process, though, and I think what was really great, is that they did a whole lab experience. So they did a full 3 months or a couple months or so in a rehearsal studio just to set it up, and then they had another rehearsal. They opened it up out of town. And so right now what they're doing is they're in what we call in the theater world 10 out of 12s. So you work 10 hours out of 12 out of 12 hours. And so that includes they go in for a rehearsal for 5 hours, and then they have a break, and then they work and perform the show, and it's a whole situation.
It's a lot.
And so that's what I'm saying, or to go back to you, what you're saying, that they are changing the show night by night by night until their official opening in Boston, and then this is what they do. What they freeze the show. So there's no more rehearsals. They just perform for a couple weeks, and then the show closes, and then everybody goes away. Rewrites happen. Everybody works on the show, and then they go back into rehearsals again for New York. Then they'll have previews, and then they'll have an official New York opening. Which in previews they will adjust and shift again.
And the funny thing is too, like you mentioned, you saw Wicked in an out of town tryout. Some shows will be specifically rewritten for audiences in certain parts, and some will also change to suit the palette of the people, the patrons that will come and watch. So in East Coast, West Coast of the United States, very different vibe. So to have an out of town tryout and gauge Wicked on the West Coast people and then to take it East Coast, even then, it's not like once that show froze that it was going to stay like that, because you need to then cater for the audience that will see it in New York.
Yeah.
And I think having Moulin Rouge already on the East Coast, you could tell what parts were catered to a New York audience, and that, you know, that will continue to evolve as well with time.
Well, yeah, and I mean, when Wicked did its out-of-town tryout, they tried to find a city that was maybe the most similar to New York, so that's why they did it in San Francisco.
And it's funny because when I watched Wicked in London, it was very different to when I watched it in Australia. The way that jokes are even presented.
They adjust things accordingly, because
Australians are sarcastic.
Yeah.
So, and we have a dry sense of humour.
Yeah.
So when I watched it for the first time in Australia, I totally got it. When I saw it in London, I thought some of it seemed like I wasn't laughing in the same places, or I wasn't getting it the same way, which is unusual because British people, it usually translates between us. But then American humour, sometimes I don't completely get.
Right, it's different.
So I think that's super interesting as well to know that, you know, in any case, even with like Broadway productions, you never really truly stop and evolving it. You never truly stop making it better. Adding new people to the mix will give it completely different dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is like the show will be frozen, so like, you know, they're not going into rehearsals to like change big things, you know, after once it's open and frozen. But then, you know, yes, there are some adjustments that do get made. You know, you bring in different actors have different sensibilities or different strengths. I mean, of course they try to cast it accordingly and appropriately, but, you know, sometimes they might have to adjust a melody line or a vocal line or switch this, or
but even an acting choice can really switch up how that delivers to somebody. So I'm just, I think my point is, like, even the fine details have the opportunity to reach a different audience, or you know, you can never really. I guess it's also feeding into that, like, go in with expectation, expect to enjoy yourself, but keep yourself open to what that is and what you're seeing. Keep yourself available to how, you know, this might not necessarily be the actress that you pictured, but that's not, but like, what are you actually going to see? You're going to see this character. And can that character be different people? Because it could. I mean, I guess a lot of people might not have assumed that Nicole Kidman would have been Satine.
Right.
She's not a singer. She's not really a dancer.
But she sold it, and
she's Australian. She's not French.
Yeah.
Like, and so to us, because we see that Nicole Kidman is Satine now, so I think some people will see casting choices and be like, is that the right one?
Yeah, but I mean, that's relative. That's all, you know, that's personal opinion and aesthetic. But I will say that this cast was brilliant, and they did a fantastic job. Each and every one of them was so great. And
so talented.
So talented, and I'm just super excited to see how the show evolves, because to me, I feel like with the adjustments that will be made, because we know that they're making them, I believe it could be, like, for me, the ultimate theatrical experience.
Yeah, me too.
I loved it.
I've already put it right up there at the top of my favorite musicals.
Yeah,
so
same.
I you know, the thought that it could get better, and it's just
I'm
exciting.
gagged even thinking about it. I can't even believe it.
and yeah, I hope that my favorite moments stay in there.
I feel like they would, but you never know. You never know, and who knows? It might be replaced with another moment that is actually even more exciting than that one.
Yeah, see, I guess I'm not even learning my own lesson here. Stay open.
Yeah,
stay open to it all.
But you know what? Like, I guess, you know, if you are in Boston, or if you're in that surrounding area, and you have access to go to the Emerson Colonial Theater in Boston, the show runs through August 19th. I would not miss it. If you are a fan of the film, if you are a fan of Baz Luhrmann, if you're a fan of art and creation, which many of you are, definitely go see it.
Are you sponsored for this?
No, but I should be.
You have that speech memorized.
I should be a producer.
Yeah. I think you have to have money to invest to be a producer. It's so good. And I think, remove the fact that I'm a dancer, remove the fact that Steve knows a lot about musical theatre. Us as people that just love that movie had a fantastic time watching it.
So good.
And even, you know, so much that we had to see it 2 nights in a row.
2 nights, and I bought all the merchandise.
And Steve bought all the merchandise, literally asked if we could stay one more night, and I was like, we can't afford it, Steve.
I wanted to. I'm telling you, I want to go right now. Like, I'll red-eye it tonight, go see it tomorrow, and red-eye it back.
Yeah. But I'm so blessed that we got to go and do that. I'm so thankful. It was a wonderful little birthday experience that we managed to make happen. So I hope you enjoyed listening to that. I am sure that in the future, Steve will find 45 new ways to bring up Baz Luhrmann, so you'll always have that to look forward to. But again, thank you for bearing with us through our theological ideas about creativity. Yeah, we really do value it, and I think that's why we get so passionate to talk about it a lot. Yeah, because if you love something, you'll run it dry, won't you?
Yeah, that's why we do what we do. You know, they say like if you're find something you're passionate about, and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm not passionate about taxes, so...
Yeah, right?
I'll have to find someone else that is. Alright, so we'll leave you with that. Thank you again for joining us. Hope you enjoyed both journal spreads, both parts of the video.
Thanks, everybody.
And, yeah, like Stu said, if you're around Boston, if you can make it in the next couple of weeks...
Go see it.
You're in for a theatrical experience that you probably will never forget.
Wig snatched.
Yeah, take a spare wig.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.